Shamitabh, directed by Adman and filmmaker R.Balki, is a film set in the Bombay film industry. Dhanush plays a movie star in this picture, except that he is mute, although he can hear quite well. No director will hire an actor who can't talk. An assistant director played by Akshara Haasan takes a shine to Dhanush. She gives him a device through which he can project somebody else's voice through his lips. An old drunkard played by Amitabh Bachchan lends his booming voice to Dhanush. As Dhanush becomes a huge star, the person who is his voice feels neglected. This is how the cookie crumbles in this drama about stardom and egos.
Mayank, unfortunately, I couldn't catch the film, and I'm wondering whether you're going to tell me whether this was fortunate or unfortunate. But before that, please tell me, how was Mr. Bachchan?
I think by now he's in his 70s. He's past, the moment where critics like us need to judge his performance. As usual, he is good. Also because we're used to seeing him in a certain way. There's that whole old Amitabh Bachchan drunken performance that he does all over again, which a lot of people will find a little over the top. But when he's so endearing on the screen, it really doesn't matter in that sense. But I think the film in itself is a celebration of Amitabh Bachchan. And if you've seen Balki's past two films, you'll know how much of a big fanboy Balki himself is.
And that's I think that is my question precisely, that given that this is such adoration and veneration, and of course we are all huge fans of the Big B, but he seems to be the biggest fan of them all, and I think
all of them, all the directors that Amitabh Bachchan's worked with during the post KBC films that he's done, they've all been fanboys. They've all tried to use the stardom and persona of Bachchan in some form or the other. But I think Balki's done the best job in the sense of at least giving him a character that is a little different, beyond the celebration of Bachchan himself. In this case, of course, it's also a celebration of cinema in general. The film really ends. The end credits are a bunch of chants that sound like Hindu chants or Buddhist chants, except that the word being spoken is film throughout. It's a very popular track that has become, and then you get a sense of how much of a tribute this is to stardom, to box office. It's a tribute to all those things that made film such a compelling medium for the 20th century. And one of the reasons was Bachchan himself. I think what really sort of got me a little more interested in this film than any others that I've seen in the past few weeks is how they take a one-line idea, which is Bachchan's voice, and how much it means to cinema itself, and then stretch it into a 2-hour film. I was skeptical before I got in because you can only go that far, even no matter how much of a fan you are of Bachchan. But I think Balki does a fine job here.
Well, that's good to know. And also, Dhanush, because I know there were a lot of people from were offered this role and declined it. And
Shah Rukh Khan, yes.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
So obviously not to be overshadowed by the great man himself. How does he acquit himself?
Dhanush is Dhanush. He's not the world's handsomest man.
No.
And that's precisely what he plays in this film. His chances of becoming an actor are very, very low, also given the fact that he can't talk. Now, this device that they've invented is my oh my god moment from this film, because he wears this device and, which will project somebody else's voice into his brain first, because the brain has to get what that sentence was, then it comes into the vocal cord and then he speaks it as if that person is actually talking through him. It's a very, very outlandish idea from that perspective, but then so is most of science fiction, so is, most of, popular mainstream cinema to begin with.
Sure, and I think that is really what the other question was, that given this extraordinary suspension of disbelief, whether you are compelled enough to go for it. And I think most people have sort of had a problem with this thing, that it's actually a great short story idea, a great short film idea that has got, stretched into this 2-hour magnum opus.
I think after this film, what became clear to me for certain, and not to sound like a fanboy, but I think Balki is one of the most clever filmmakers we have in the country right now. Very few people take that giant leap with an idea. I think Rajkumar Hirani is another one who does. Although I think, in terms of an idea, I don't think PK was as big because, it's been done. It was a 70s drama also that played on American television that, you have this man who looks exactly like a man was actually an alien. But this one, I think was a giant leap in terms of leap of faith. I think he came off with flying colors. I like the film. I don't know about the others, but I really hope that you get to watch it, and I hope others too.
Well, there we have it. I'm sure that Mayank is suggesting Dekho, theatre mein dekho.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
It's a Dekho in the theatre. The weekend is over, but there's another weekend coming up, and I think I'll recommend it for Weekend Pe Dekho.
Well, there you have it. A very emphatic theatre mein dekho, isi weekend pe dekho. But let's find out what the Desi Martini audience has to say.